All right, so today, me and Matt, we're going to be talking about the couple that was feeling a little bit threatened by some Black Lives Matter protesters. Now, we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. I don't think there's necessarily any saints in this particular case, because there were legal problems on both sides of this. So we're going to kind of go into it so you guys can hear kind of the full story of it. So the couple, as you may have seen them, they're Mark and Patricia McCloskey. They're actually lawyers they're pretty big in their area. Not only do they own a law firm, she was on the board of
she's on the board of elections, and she is on the St. Louis bar ethics committee.
Okay, yeah. So these are movers and shakers. These are not just random people. So you can see that.
By golly, do they have a nice house?
they are so stinking rich. Like you see, they're just like massive columns, and like the bricks that just make up their house are just like insanely huge. And it's just like the epitome of wealthy people in their ivory tower. And it's like, how dare you come into my neighborhood? And they start swinging these guns around.
The worst gun safety I've the two tenets, the top two tenets of the NRA gun safety manual are: finger off the trigger, don't point your gun at anything you're not willing to shoot at, and don't point it until you're ready to shoot. And you can see both the Mr. and the Mrs. just Mrs. pointing it at people, her little pistol, and Mark with his AK-47, sorry, his AR-15, I think it was, pointing it across his chest toward his wife. Like, she's standing next to him, and he is hands-on, pointed at her, not down, across.
Right, you have to pretend like it could fire at any point. Like, you always have to pretend like this thing could misfire, even if you think it's not loaded. There could be one in the chamber. You always pretend this gun is loaded. It's ready to kill somebody. That's how you have to act when you're around a gun.
But also, even just for intimidation's sake or for safety's sake of yourself, if you want to protect yourself from somebody else, if you're holding a gun here, it's not useful to you. The amount of time it will take you to swing it around, to be pointed in the direction you want, it's too late. It needs to be in the general direction, but down at the ground. Otherwise, it's useless. It's just showing everyone, I have a gun. Look at my fancy gun. It's not even correct for what he was trying to do with it.
Yeah. Let's give a little bit of context. Now, one thing that you don't really see in the video is that this was...
Let's take it back to the beginning. Let's take it back to the very, very beginning of what exactly was going on here. We have a Black Lives Matter protest in St. Louis that decide to go through a gated community. They end up busting through the gate of this gated community.
Oh yeah, that gate is wrecked.
Yeah. But they aren't going to people's houses. They're staying on the street. They're staying on the sidewalk. They aren't encroaching on people's private property. The whole thing is a private property, so there's that. But they're not going up to people's homes.
Sure.
A couple comes out of their homes, seeking, having been apparently scared of this whole thing, and man and woman, turn up your husband and wife, come out, man with a big AR-15, woman with a small pistol, man kind of holding his gun up, woman waving her gun at protesters, both of them more or less screaming at people to stay back. So they are not being rational in this situation.
And they are claiming that they were threatened. They claim that the Black Lives Matter protesters had weapons. There's no evidence of that so far. And my thing is, if you felt threatened, you see people walking by on the street, why would you go confront them? Let's say, let's take their account as truth. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say these protesters did have weapons. Why would you go confront people with your guns and just stand out in the open like if you really thought you were under siege, you're not even going to get cover. You're just going to walk out in the middle of the yard, nothing to hide behind. If you had to, no cover at all. You're just going to start pointing your little pea shooter. Like that is just wild.
This is a fantasy that, frankly, organizations like the NRA have helped to perpetuate. That if you have a gun, if you're armed, you are almost invincible. That you can control a situation, that you can scare people, that you can get people to do what you want. Hollywood, the NRA have all sort of held up this twisted ideal. And so they're being stupid even in what they're trying to do. They're not accomplishing what they want.
And speaking of accomplishing what they want, the fact that this got so much coverage actually made the protesters get what they wanted, which was coverage of what they were doing. The fact when something is controversial, that's somewhat a good thing. Sometimes it's a very good thing for the protesters because they want people to take this issue seriously. The fact is, we had cases like Breonna Taylor. She was killed in her home. They don't have the luxury of gated communities and, giant pillars and bricks to protect them. This person was in their home, sleeping, and shot 8 times by police, and those killers are still out on, they didn't get arrested or anything like that.
And it wouldn't have even mattered if they were in a gated community. It was the cops. They had a no-knock warrant. They would have done that wherever they were.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have even mattered because they're allowed to do that, to just barge in. Now, they're still supposed to announce themselves, which they did not do. They're still supposed to give you an order and give you time to follow it. They did none of those things. But the ability to just break someone's door down, we live in the United States. Guns are everywhere. People have the right to defend their private property. There is a case of someone who who shot at an officer who was entering their home, and that case was decided for the gentleman because he has a right to stand his ground, defend his home, and the officers had not announced themselves.
And it's crazy because case by case, some of this stuff really goes bad for people because you could defend yourself against a police dog, and that could put you in jail because a police dog is counted as a police officer.
Yeah.
And if you hurt one in any way, that's assault of a police officer, which is that's gonna get you a hard time. So a police dog could come up, start gnawing you on the arm, and you can't do anything about it because it's an officer of the law and you can't resist arrest. So these are the kinds of issues, Breonna Taylor's death, police brutality, all this stuff. They're trying to make the people in the ivory towers pay attention. And guess what? They're paying attention now. Yeah. And that's what they were trying to accomplish. And I believe that they did.
Yeah. And it's the support for the Black Lives Matter movement has gone up more in the past few months than it did in the last few years. They have accomplished more in these few months than they had in years and years and years. So it's been, the pandemic has sort of concentrated everything, and everybody has to be paying attention.
People don't have sports to watch anymore. They don't have all the distractions. Our regular gladiators aren't there to distract us from what's going on. So I think that kind of helps. So I think that this moment has kind of come from the fact that, yes, everybody's videotaping now, although we already had videos. But at the same time, some of these are so particularly egregious with no ability to say, well, he was doing this or he was doing that. And now that we're all kind of being forced to pay attention to it, people have more time because they're having to stay at home. I think that we're very fortunate that this moment has come because, obviously a lot of bad things had to happen, but because they came all together, I think that's what's finally getting people to pay attention, because the problem is these sorts of things happen all the time but get ignored. And now at least they're not getting ignored.
Yeah.
All right. What's the final word on this one? I know that
If
there
you're
was
gonna bring a gun out, at least know how to hold it.
at least know how to hold it. I'm not sure. I don't know if we're going to give people a pass on necessarily breaking down gated communities, but people are getting desperate to be heard. So I think that if people don't pay attention, and if all they're going to do is these sorts of woke signaling, like putting Black Lives Matter in front of Trump Tower, that's not what people are asking for. And I think that if they don't have some real concrete change, they're going to see more of this stuff. Whether it's right
Yep.
or wrong, I just think it's just an inevitability.
So if the media only covers the sensational things, people will do sensational things to get attention. For better or for worse, that is what will happen.
Absolutely. That's the final word. So, all right, subscribe if you haven't already. And if you want to join the conversation, you can actually join us. Soon we're going to be on Twitch, and you can join us on Facebook at Let's Talk News. And we will see you guys in the next video.
Don't forget to ring that bell.